I was forced to sit alone at my sister's wedding, tucked in a corner of the grand hall, watching the crowd of friends and family celebrate while I nursed a glass of sparkling water, pretending that the sting of exclusion didn't hurt, pretending that being overlooked, ignored, and whispered about didn't make my chest tighten with a mixture of anger and hurt, because my sister had made it clear weeks before that I wasn't welcome in the way the bride deserves for her sibling, and my presence was tolerated at best. As the ceremony began, my mind wandered, imagining how differently things might have been if my parents had intervened, if she had remembered that family is meant to lift each other up rather than divide. But none of those thoughts softened the ache of being alone on what was supposed to be a shared, joyful day. The string quartet played softly in the background, glasses clinked, laughter and conversation swirled around me, and I felt increasingly invisible, a ghost at my own sister's happiest moment. Then, out of nowhere, a stranger approached, a man I hadn't seen before, dressed in a crisp suit and wearing a kind, sympathetic smile. He paused beside my table and said, quietly, "Pretend you're with me." I blinked at him, confused, my emotions tangled between skepticism and desperation for relief. "What do you mean?" I asked. He gestured toward the crowded hall, the couples laughing, the families mingling. "Sit with me. Dance if you want. Talk to me. Just act like you belong somewhere, anywhere, even if it's not here with them." I hesitated, unsure if I should trust this stranger, but his calm confidence and gentle smile drew me in, and I nodded. As I joined him at his table, he introduced himself as a friend of the groom who had noticed me sitting alone. We began talking, lightly at first, then more openly, and I realized I hadn't had a conversation that wasn't tinged with judgment or comparison in years. He asked about my work, my passions, my dreams, things my sister and her entourage had never seemed interested in, and I found myself laughing, genuinely, for the first time that night. The stranger insisted we join the dance floor, and as I danced, pretending to be with him, I noticed heads turning, whispers spreading, and suddenly the air shifted. I wasn't invisible anymore. People smiled, complimented my confidence, and I realized that belonging isn't always about family acknowledgement. It's about presence, courage, and the choice to embrace moments even when they feel stolen from you. By the end of the evening, I had shared stories, danced with others, and discovered a freedom I hadn't expected. The stranger, whose name I learned was Daniel, had transformed what began as a night of rejection into an experience that reminded me of my own worth, the joy I could create, and the people who could unexpectedly enrich my life. When the wedding ended and guests began leaving, I thanked him, expecting to lose him in the crowd, but he smiled and said, "You don't need me to belong anywhere, remember that. You belong wherever you choose to stand." Walking home later that night, I reflected on the irony. A wedding meant to highlight exclusion had instead reminded me of my resilience, the kindness of strangers, and the power of creating your own space in a world that sometimes refuses to include you. My sister's celebration had tried to diminish me, but with the help of someone I didn't even know, I realized that belonging isn't given, it's claimed, and that claiming it sometimes starts with a simple offer from a stranger who sees your worth when no one else does.